It was an ordinary Tuesday morning. Parents rushed their children off to school. Office workers grabbed their coffee and hurried to catch the subway. Flights took off across the country, carrying businessmen, vacationers, and families heading home. No one knew this day would mark a turning point in history. Just before 8 a.m., four commercial airliners took off from airports in Boston, Washington, D.C., and Newark. They looked like any other planes, but on board, 19 men carried out a mission that would shock the entire world. At 8:46 a.m., the first strike hit. A Boeing 767 slammed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. In that instant, America's sense of safety was shattered. What seemed like a terrible accident was only the beginning. For planes, 19 hijackers, nearly 3,000 lives lost, and a nation forever changed. But how did it all unfold? And how did a clear September morning turn into the deadliest terrorist attack in modern history? 7:59 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 departs from Boston's Logan International Airport. It's bound for Los Angeles, carrying 92 people. But only minutes after takeoff, it is hijacked. At 8:14 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 also departs Boston, heading for Los Angeles with 65 souls aboard, unknown to anyone on the ground. Both planes are now under the control of terrorists. At 8:20 a.m., a third flight, American Airlines Flight 77, takes off from Washington, D.C., also bound for Los Angeles. 79 passengers and crew are on board. The hijackers are already moving into position. Then, 8:46 a.m., the unthinkable happens. American Airlines Flight 11 slams into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The 110-story skyscraper erupts in flames. At first, many believe it's a terrible accident, but within minutes, the truth becomes undeniable. 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 crashes into the South Tower, hitting between the 77th and 85th floors. Millions watching live realize America is under attack. Thousands are trapped inside the towers. Firefighters rush into the burning buildings. Ordinary office workers become rescuers, guiding strangers down dark stairwells filled with smoke. The world is holding its breath. 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the U.S. military. Flames tear through the western side of the building, killing 125 people inside, along with everyone aboard the plane. America is in chaos. Air traffic controllers scramble to track more planes. The FAA grounds every aircraft in U.S. airspace, something that had never been done before. 10:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 93 crashes into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The hijackers intended to strike Washington, D.C., but passengers, aware of the other attacks, fight back. Their bravery prevents an even greater tragedy. 40 passengers and crew, but their sacrifice saves countless lives. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapses in just 10 seconds, sending a massive cloud of debris across Lower Manhattan. Less than 30 minutes later, at 10:28 a.m., the North Tower falls. The New York skyline and the nation are changed forever. In just under 2 hours, four planes had turned America's greatest cities into battlegrounds. Nearly 3,000 innocent people were gone. When the South Tower fell at 9:59 a.m., Manhattan erupted into chaos. A thunderous roar shook the ground as if the earth itself had split open. Dust and debris swallowed the streets, turning day into night. Thousands of people, covered in gray ash, stumbled through the darkness. some searching for loved ones, others simply searching for air. Inside the towers, firefighters and police officers climbed higher and higher, against a tide of people rushing down. They knew the risks. Many would never return, but their mission was clear: save as many lives as possible. 343 firefighters, 60 police officers, and 8 paramedics gave their lives that day. For many, their last recorded words were radio calls saying, "We're going in." On the ground, bystanders watched in disbelief. Some wept, some prayed. Others could not comprehend what their eyes were seeing. New York, the city that never sleeps, had become a war zone. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., chaos spread through the nation's capital. The Pentagon burned as emergency crews fought to rescue survivors from the wreckage. Rumors of additional hijacked planes raced through the city. Government officials were evacuated. The President of the United States, George W., was rushed to a secure location. America was under attack, and no one knew if it was over. In Pennsylvania, news of Flight 93 spread. Families learned that their loved ones had fought back against the hijackers, sacrificing themselves to save countless others. Their courage became one of the most powerful symbols of the day. Ordinary passengers standing up to unimaginable terror.
Deadly attacks which were carried out yesterday against our country were more than acts of terror. They were acts of war.
Then, 10:28 a.m., the North Tower collapsed. The heart of New York City vanished into a storm of smoke, steel, and fire. Survivors who had made it out just minutes before turned back in shock. Thousands still inside never had the chance. In less than 2 hours, the Twin Towers, once a symbol of American strength and ambition, were gone. But the human spirit, though shaken, did not collapse. Across the city, strangers helped strangers. Rescue workers formed chains through the rubble. Doctors and nurses lined up to treat survivors who would never arrive, because so few made it out alive. As the dust settled and the fires raged, the questions began. Who was behind this? How had 4 passenger planes been turned into weapons? And what did it mean for America's future? In the hours after the attacks, America was in shock. Families frantically called loved ones who never answered. Hospitals prepared for patients who would never come. And the government scrambled for answers. Who had orchestrated the deadliest terrorist attack on American soil? The investigation began immediately. Within 24 hours, the FBI identified all 19 hijackers. They had boarded the 4 flights armed with box cutters, using brute force to storm cockpits. Many had lived quietly in the United States for months, attending flight schools, renting apartments, blending into ordinary life while preparing for extraordinary violence. The leader of the operation was Mohammed Atta, an Egyptian national. Along with other operatives, he trained in aviation and carried out meticulous planning. They weren't acting alone. Behind them stood a terrorist network, Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, had declared war on the United States years earlier. They had already struck American embassies in Africa in 1998 and the USS Cole in 2000. But September 11th was their deadliest message yet. A coordinated assault designed to terrorize not just a nation, but the entire world. That night, President George W. Bush addressed the nation.
Good evening. Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices. Secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief.
We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them. The world had changed. America was now at war with terror. Around the globe, grief turned into solidarity. World leaders condemned the attacks. Crowds gathered in silent vigils. For a brief moment, the entire world stood with the United States. But as investigators pieced together the network behind 9/11, the trail led to Afghanistan, where Al-Qaeda operated under the protection of the Taliban regime. Soon, America's grief would turn into retaliation. The war on terror was about to begin. The attacks were over, but their consequences had only just begun. America was about to enter a new era, one defined by war, fear, and a world reshaped by the events of that single September morning. September 11th was not just a day of terror. It was the beginning of a new world. In the weeks that followed, America entered uncharted territory. Airports, government offices, and even daily routines would never be the same again. Before September 11th, airport security was routine, almost casual. But in the aftermath, the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, was created. Metal detectors became the norm, liquids were restricted, and cockpit doors were reinforced. Air travel transformed from a convenience into a front line of defense. On October 7th, 2001, less than a month after the attacks, the United States launched Operation Enduring Freedom, targeting Al-Qaeda and the Taliban in Afghanistan. It was the start of the war on terror, a conflict that would last for decades and claim hundreds of thousands of lives. Domestically, the government passed the Patriot Act. Supporters called it necessary for national security. Critics warned it gave authorities too much power, expanding surveillance, wiretapping, and detentions in ways that changed the balance between freedom and security. Meanwhile, for survivors and families of the victims, life would never return to normal. Children grew up without parents. Spouses faced an empty seat at the table. Thousands of first responders developed chronic illnesses from toxic dust at Ground Zero. The cost of 9/11 was not only counted in lives lost that morning, but in the years of suffering that followed. The impact stretched beyond America. Nations across the world tightened their borders. Counterterrorism became a top priority. Wars in Iraq and Afghanistan reshaped global politics. Entire generations grew up in a post-9/11 world where fear of terrorism was constant, a shadow that stretched across continents. But through grief, through war, and through fear, a new question arose. How should the world remember 9/11? And how could a nation find healing after such unimaginable loss?
No one who lived through the horror of the September 11th terrorist attacks can ever forget the agony and the anguish of that terrible day. It was a terrible day. The images of dark plumes of smoke billowing over lower Manhattan, the Pentagon, and a field of Pennsylvania, such a beautiful field, are seared into our minds forever. We will never forget. Today, on this solemn anniversary of those monstrous attacks, we remember the 2,977 precious souls who were savagely taken from us on that morning, leaving a void that can never be filled, No matter what happens, it can never be filled. We will say a prayer for each of the beautiful families they left behind, whose pain is beyond comprehension. What they've gone through is not even believable. We honor the firefighters, the great New York PD, police department, what great people they are. They are so great. And the Port Authority officers, the Virginia, D.C., and Pentagon police, and the military service members and other first responders, actually all over the country. They acted with supreme heroism, and they went to the site of the most heinous crime. They would leave other states far away and go to the World Trade Center site, the Pentagon. They'd go to Pennsylvania. who in many cases gave their lives in the line of duty. God bless the memory of all of those who perished in the 9/11 attacks. We will never, ever forget. We will never forget you. We love you. God bless their families, and God bless America.
Where the Twin Towers once stood, two vast pools now flow with water, each etched with the names of nearly 3,000 men, women, and children. It is a place of silence, of memory, and of grief. For families, it is sacred ground. Every year, on September 11th, the names are read aloud. Parents, children, firefighters, passengers, their lives frozen in time, their stories carried on by those who refuse to forget. But remembrance is not only American. Around the world, people honor the victims. Candles are lit, bells are tolled, and the question still lingers. How could such hatred bring such devastation? And how can humanity rise above it? Out of the rubble came countless stories of courage. Firefighters climbing into the flames. Passengers fighting back on Flight 93. Strangers carrying one another through clouds of dust. The worst of humanity had been revealed that day, but so had the very best. September 11th, 2001 will forever stand as one of the darkest chapters in history. Yet it also reminds us that even in our deepest sorrow, there is strength. In loss, there is resilience. And in memory, there is unity. For those who lived through it, for those who lost everything, and for those who carry the memory forward, we remember